Yard & Garden is a production of the University of Minnesota Morris in cooperation with Pioneer Public Television. Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yackel Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org.
Fall can be so fickle. One day it can be 80 degrees and the very next day it can be 45. We'll get a frost and then it warms up and we'll have lots more beautiful days. It is so sad to see our flowers nipped by frost and know that winter is coming around the corner. However, even though we have lost some of our flowers, it is still possible to enjoy our time outdoors. Come along with us on Prairie Yard & Garden as we get lots of great tips to extend the beauty of our yards through fall and beyond. Fall is many people's favorite season, and I don't mind when the garden finishes up because I've been busy canning and freezing to enjoy the produce during winter. But it really hurts when Jack Frost takes my flowers. I'm host Mary Holm, and today we are visiting with Randy Hokanson, who is going to give us lots of great ideas to extend the beauty in our yards even after old Jack Frost comes to visit. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you, Mary. It's a pleasure to be on the Prairie Yard & Garden Show.
What are some of the things that you do, or what do you use from the outdoors to extend the decorating season in your yard?
Well, many things. There's so many flowering heads, seed heads, pressed leaves, all of those kinds of things. I prune my birch tree occasionally and usually will hang on to the nice white birch stems to use. I even go out and strip some of the bark off at Christmas time to use in different arrangements. But you can find interesting fungus, you can find bittersweet. It's just a really, really lovely time of year to be gathering nature into yourself so that you can extend that outdoor experience even to the inside when winter hits.
You were mentioning bittersweet. What is that?
Bittersweet is a vine that grows native in Minnesota. It's got this beautiful, bright, burnt orange berry, and it is just a symbol of autumn or fall. And it pops open once the vine starts to dry. Once you cut it, they're usually in a round berry form, and then you take it home and you dry it and strip the leaves off the vine, and then all of a sudden there's these gorgeous berries in clusters, and they have a little shell that pops open, and they have a very unique look to them.
And what other things do you use even from your yard for decorating?
Well, I like to use hydrangea. I have several different varieties of the hydrangea shrub, and of course they are blooming just beautifully right now, and before a hard frost hits they have their most excellent color, a lot of russets and rose colored and burgundy colors to the flower heads. I like to use some of the seed heads from shrubs. There's a really attractive seed head on the 9-bark shrub. And I like to prune some dogwood twigs often this time of year for my holiday arrangements, but also birch twigs. I often will let birch twigs hang upside down, and we will use those in the holiday time to support amaryllis or narcissus or something like that, because they're just this big tall stalk and they kind of need some filling in to me.
Have you dried the hydrangea flowers?
Yes, I have.
I know there's different kinds of hydrangeas. There's the ones with the big puffball flowers, and then there's also the ones with the cone-shaped flowers. Can you dry both of them?
You can dry both. I tend to think that the cone-shaped have a thicker stem. They're woodier, and so they have to have a sturdier stem just because they have the weight of the flower head. But you can dry both. Just a simple Annabelle hydrangea, which is the little umbrella or mop head, can be dried. They just don't keep as big a petal look just because they don't have it when they're blooming either. You know, they'll just shrivel up a little bit from how they naturally bloom. But I love the colors that many of the hydrangeas have right now, the pink diamonds and the quick fires. They're just gorgeous this time of year.
So do you use any of the traditional things to decorate too, like pumpkins or mums, or do you use any of those things?
It's hard to beat a good blooming mum at this time of year just because they are so hardy and they have such beautiful fall color. I do like to add those to my existing growing things that I have that extend the season. And my front of my house handles the oranges of normal pumpkins better than the rear end of my house. My color scheme back here tends to be not in the reds and the oranges. Nothing is with the building that wouldn't go with it, but just because I have flowers that extend the season, the wind anemones and the verbenas, I like to go with a little bit different color scheme in my backyard, and I have kind of an English Tudor cottage look. So the corn stalks don't really do anything for my architecture. They're lovely in some locations, and the other issue that I have in my backyard is I already harbor a lot of squirrels, and if I start putting corn stalks and corn plants around, I'm going to be dealing with them all winter long, and they really compete with my bird feeders and with the birds that I do want to attract.
What do you have in your yard that helps to attract the birds that maybe doesn't attract the squirrels?
Well, it's a whole seasonal thing to attract birds. You have to have shelter for them that they may want to build their nests in, but at this time of the year we're looking at plants that have seed heads for the chickadees, and for the smaller birds it can hang right on the flower head that has the cone flowers, the Joe Pye weed. I have a number of native vines that grow around on things, and sometimes they have a berry on them. And then some of the persistent fruit on crab apples or trees like serviceberry. I love the serviceberry just because it has beautiful autumn color, but it also does have a fruit that attracts birds to your yard in the first place.
Now, tell me, how do you like to decorate your entrances? I know that that's always a place that you want to look welcoming. So what do you do?
Well, one of the things I did in my back entrance for fall this year is actually somebody gave me a really nice fuchsia colored mum, which maybe isn't one that I would have picked out myself, and I just loved it. And it went perfectly with the vine that I still had going, the Mandevilla vine, and some white specialty gourds and pumpkins. So there's nothing orange there, but it still has that sage green squash, and it has the white pumpkins. As the season moves along, I've combined all of my potting things that I'm going to take care of and cover at night into one cluster, so I don't have to be running all over my yard covering something with a rug here and a rug there. So I have this combination of things, and I'm going to try to protect a few more nights and get a little bit more life out of it. And that's one of the things I do while you can still have living material. But as you proceed into autumn, you have to be aware that even your pumpkins, even the things that are somewhat seasonally hardy, are going to fade, and they will not be in good shape in 3-4 more weeks. Probably by Thanksgiving your pumpkins will be mush. Mm-hmm. And so then you want to plan on what do we do to transit between that fall part of the season and into when you're going to decorate for the holiday season and for Christmas. So
do you actually take some plants that were in one pot and put them together into another pot in order to still keep them looking nice?
I absolutely do. We spend a lot of money as gardeners on our container plants, and I am glad that we have that opportunity to do that because somebody else is starting all those plants and growing them for us. There's always new and exciting ones on the market that are fun to try. And we are really learning to plant very intensely in our containers so that we have an active growing pot almost immediately. Well, by the end of the summer season, many times there are parts of that pot that are not nearly as good, but some of the things are just really coming into their own by the time the cool weather hits. So I will look for those particular plants that are doing very well, take them out of the arrangement pot and use them as a specimen plant or something like that for an extended season. And many times they are the ones that like the cool nights. There's still lovely, beautiful sunshine many days, and so you get a few more weeks out of that expense that you put into your annuals and your container plants by doing that.
How about your benches? How do you treat them in order to still keep them looking nice and make them welcoming in the fall?
Well, the benches are just stationed all over in a yard. You have to have a stopping place all during the season to enjoy each vista that you have planned as a gardener. And I think in the autumn, one of the ways to really extend that is we know that when you get up in the morning it's cool, and it's cool at night, but many people love that season. Many people love fall as their favorite season. But it's handy to have some nice little warm throws on the benches and some pillows that you can sit back and enjoy a cup of coffee or a hot chocolate, cook a s'more on the campfire or whatever. And then, of course, being aware, you do have to take them in at night. You don't know, what may happen overnight, and so leaving your throws and your pillows out at night probably isn't the best thing this time of the year.
I have a question. How do I go about growing grapes in my own yard?
Growing grapes in Minnesota is not unlike growing grapes anywhere else in the world, except we have the added factor of severely cold winters. But fortunately, over the years, numerous breeders have developed grapes that can tolerate our cold climate and can actually survive our winters. So, for instance, right next to me here is a vine of Marquette, which was developed by the University of Minnesota in 2006. And as you can see here, this particular trellis style is called vertical shoot positioning. So the fruit is all borne on the vine low here, and then the shoots are meant to be directed upward. And this vine is hardy in Minnesota. It produces a reliable crop most seasons like this, as you can see. There's many other varieties that you can grow in Minnesota. Marquette is one of them that we've talked about, but there's other ones from the University of Minnesota like the Frontenac and Frontenac Gris. There's also La Crescent, that's a white varietal. There's many other varieties such as Edelweiss, Brianna, Swenson Red, just a whole host of grapes that people can grow in Minnesota, and not only just Minnesota, but throughout the whole Northland. Anywhere where it's basically cold, too cold for the vinifera type grapes like your Riesling and Chardonnays and Pinots, that stuff doesn't exist here, but we can grow these other varietals that still make outstanding wines.
Ask the Arboretum Experts has been brought to you by the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum in Chanhassen, dedicated to enriching lives through the appreciation and knowledge of plants.
Randy, tell me what some of these things are that you use for decorating.
Well, these are all natural growing items that are plant materials in my yard. I've just recently pruned a birch branch, and instead of throwing all of the branch part away, I realized that I would like to use some of this in the winter time and possibly into some of my arrangements. So just like the bittersweet vine, you are actually going to pick off the leaves. And what that reveals is the stem structure and next year's buds. And just like we do in this one that's already done, it has even some of the little catkins on there for interest. So you can see the structure emerge as you remove the leaf material. And that is what you do with the bittersweet vine if you gather it and harvest it as well. So you want to get all of those leaves off, hang them upside down again, and then they aren't going to bend over and be in an unnatural shape. So everything that I dry, I will dry upside down. This is the birch completed, and it'll be interesting in an arrangement then, and it'll be sturdy and will hold up ornaments or whatever you want to put it with.
Oh, I'll bet you that would be pretty to hang ornaments
Right.
on, or to even use it to prop up things.
I have little icicle drops that I hang in the branches of this, or redwood red twig dogwood. And also you can tuck them into the forest pots for amaryllis. They give that a structure, give it something to tie to. Sometimes they tend to get so tall that they just need something around them as well, or the paperwhites really need this after they start to bloom.
Right, so they don't get so floppy.
Right.
They can help. That's a great
Right.
idea to use that. Okay, and so then what is this that you use?
That's that Artemisia, and it's the tall one that gets a little floppy during the growing season. So even as I prune them off during the growing season, I just keep them gathered, tie them upside down in a clump in my garden shed. And these are all dried. These have been in there for a while. And this I tuck into pine and spruce bouquets at the entrances for the Christmas holidays. So that's a nice contrast with the green during that time. And then this is an interesting seed head that I actually put on my lights at the front entrance for the autumn. This is from a 9-bark. Again, if you're doing it kind of fresh, you can leave the leaves. They will eventually fall off on them by themselves, but if you want to take them all off, you can really see the seed head structure. And be on the alert in your yard and out in nature of some of the very interesting things that you can find that might add to an arrangement. The gathering is half the fun. One of the things I've been doing with the grandchildren is gathering bright colored leaves this time of year, and I told them that we would make a special little arrangement that would be in Grandma's house for Thanksgiving and during the fall. And so they would help gather them, and they're only 2, and they hold on to them very, very carefully. And then we put them in a book and press them, and you leave them in there for a couple of weeks, and you don't have to put any glycerin or anything on these. Then they just can be used, and put them around on different things. They're actually quite lovely just even on a plain white plate, just a single specimen of different colors or whatever. So this little thing is a nice way to carry over nature into another season. Now we got some bittersweet in there and some leaves and some mosses. Enjoying nature inside.
What a great way to involve your children too.
Right.
To get them out into the outdoors and not just have them be watching TV or a screen or something.
It's a magical world, the outdoors, and especially if you show them different activities that they can really enjoy and they can be a part of, and then it can be a memory, and you know, all those kinds of things really help their learning. It helps them remember things much better if they are actively participating like that.
I see you have some hydrangea here too.
I do. These are just freshly picked, so the leaves still look live and everything on these, and I could squeeze these and they're not going to be crunchy, but I can again take the leaves right off these. Maybe you want to leave some on up at the top, and you're going to hang these in a group together. A lot of times I just put a rubber band around them and a paper clip and use the paper clip. These are from last year, so these have been pretty hardy. And people think, well, they're all just going to fall apart, and if you had them in a location where you were brushing against them all the time, that might be true. But this is a whole year old, and I'm squeezing this, and yes, I'm losing some petals, but these would stick in nicely with a branch of oak leaves, with some pine or some evergreens during the holiday season, depending on what your particular style is that you're going to use it for. But I love all these methods of extending the growing season right on into your household during the winter time.
Now I see that these are the cone-shaped flowers, and then there's also the big puffball flowers,
Right.
like on the Annabelle. Can you dry those too?
You can. The best technique, though, is to hang them upside down, because
Okay.
particularly the mop heads, like the Annabelle, don't have as woody of a stem as these PGs and pink diamonds, and so therefore if they have a real heavy head and you don't hang them upside down, they can do that bend over. So that's why I do everything upside down, and it just makes it a nice form to use in other uses then.
How long does it take to dry them?
If you're doing this inside, you'd put them in a coolest place you could in your house, so probably in the lower level, and hang them upside down in the dark, and they would be drying out inside a house that's heated in a couple of weeks' time. Now I put mine in my garden shed. That way they don't get influenced by the climate and wetness and those kinds of things, and they'll still remain dry. But it takes a little longer for them to dry out when it's a non-heated building.
Well, and I bet you probably use some grasses too.
I do. I don't have the full sun that I need in my particular yard here to really get into grass growing, but at the cabin, I love the grasses at the cabin because they're low during the lake season when you really want to see the lake, and then when they start to grow up during the season, now they're these beautiful different heads waving in the wind. It's catching that low sunlight that we get in the autumn, and they'll be in winter interest all winter long. Plus there are some seeds within those that will attract birds and that kind of thing as well. This is one of my favorite. It's a sea oats, and it's an ornamental grass. It's supposed to be hardy for here. I have tried this in my garden right here in the backyard, and the clump seems to not live. Well, over on the west side of my house, just a couple weeks ago, I found a great big clump of it growing in amongst my hollyhocks. So I have gathered several different handfuls of this, but they're an exquisite. They're not pressed. This is the way they grow, and they have that flat head. A lot of interest to that. And again, this looks nice tucked in amongst pines and with some antlers and things like that that really call nature around you if you're decorating for either Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Well, and the grasses really speak of fall because they have such beautiful color, and then with their openness and their waving, it's just a really...
They look so fragile. They're like the guara, the butterfly, the whirling butterfly flower that I use in my planters during the summer. They have this delicate little white flower, and they look like they would be so fragile, and they're one of the hardiest little plants I've ever seen handle the wind and everything. Grasses are the same way. They're this airy seed head that blows in the wind and gets covered with frost and gets covered with snow, and will add interest right on through till spring, and then you just cut them down at the base and they'll start all over for you again.
And there's so many different kinds of grasses too.
30 or 40 different ornamentals now that are hardy just about, isn't there?
No, I think, and some of them are, and some of them are native, and then they've improved some of the natives,
Right.
and some are gold, and some are red.
Right.
So it's just a wonderful palette of color. I'd also like to see, you had mentioned window boxes that you have redone. Could you show those to us too?
Absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Well, you have some beautiful plant materials here, and it looks like you have used them to redo your window box. Tell us about this.
Well, I do, and this time of year you are going to end up with impatiens that as soon as they get that cold wind blowing on them like yesterday, it's all over for them. They were blooming beautifully the day before. And so as things start to fade that are your summer beauty, you have to look for some other options for autumn, and this is before the holidays, so I'm not going to put evergreens in here yet. But this is just to show you using the same window box. I'm putting in the autumn fern plant, which is known for its beautiful color. It has this color kind of all during the growing season, but it really looks nice. It shows up nicely this time of year with that bronze tone to the fern leaf. I pruned my birch, and I'm not going to use a large birch branch like this in a window box just for scale. You want to have your birch be a statement that shows the white bark, but you also want it to be in scale with whatever your arrangement is. So this I will save more for a front entrance big pot that will be used during the holidays. The other plant material that I've used in here is the burning bush or winged euonymus. Love this plant. It has this beautiful quirky looking stem and beautiful, beautiful bright red fall color and the little orange berries. So I just cut them and stuck them in there just like they were a cut flower right now. Well, eventually these leaves will loosen, and what you will have left is the orange berry and the very quirky bark that will still show up, be a branch system, and will probably actually show off. This is the bittersweet berry that pops open and has that beautiful bright orange berry for the fall decorations. Now, I left this one in here just to show you that until you get a hard freeze, there are some plants that actually do pretty well. In 2 or 3 days, it's rumored we're going to have a hard freeze. So if I take this plant out of the window box, and that's the thing that you have to be looking at, is when things start to fade or things start to go, what will be left. In my front entrance, I have my ivy topiaries. Well, they're pretty hardy, and you can cover them for quite a few nights that it gets close to freezing. But after a while, you won't want to lose those. So then what will happen to the arrangement when you take those out? So as you're planning it, make sure that you're looking ahead a little bit to see what won't be there in a week or two. But that's a really nice arrangement for fall.
Well, and I bet you that you could even take and put something that you've dried, like a hydrangea, or maybe even an autumn joy sedum.
Right. The sedums are a beautiful color head right now, and a lot of different variety for autumn for those too. We also have the alliums that if you did a grouping of these, they could take the place of the fern. Eventually I'll want to plant the fern in the actual garden so that it doesn't freeze in a window box over the freezing season here.
Mm-hmm. That wild onion or the allium, I bet you that would be beautiful if you painted that even.
I do a light dusting sometimes. You'll notice I have a lot of copper in my yard. Copper is kind of my thing, both aged and the copper color like this. So I have a copper paint that I will mist this with, and then when I change my entrance decor to using the garden gazing ball that's copper, I put in pheasant feathers around it. I put in these and maybe just some branches, curly branches, and even some evergreen at that point. If you put a soft kind of a cushion of evergreen under all of that, then you can just use that as part of your next season just by changing out some of the other things. So try to reuse as many things as you can and just think ahead, well, what can I take out that's going to fade, but what can I put back in?
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your outdoor tips and for sharing your beautiful place with us. Thank you.
Enjoy the outdoors. There's nothing better.
Additional support provided by Mark and Margaret Yackel-Julien in honor of Shalom Hill Farm, a nonprofit rural education retreat center in a beautiful prairie setting near Windham in southwestern Minnesota. ShalomHillFarm.org.